Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning. As an introduction to my presentations today, the global outbreak of the COVID-19 virus caused unforgiving circumstances and job insecurities that severely compromise the socio-economic well-being of migrant workers. As the pandemic disrupted international movement, ILO reported 114 million employment loss, and low-skilled workers with elementary occupations were the hardest hit by the pandemic. Within this context, the study aims to examine the life experiences of South Asian migrants in Brunei, focusing on the Indians and the Bangladeshis, because the life narratives of these migrants were extremely understudied. And the fact that they mostly fill the elementary occupations in Brunei, and this made it even more crucial to examine their life experiences during the pandemic. This study considers the Indians and the Bangladeshis in Brunei as diasporic communities due to the ways they strongly articulate the notion of homeland and identity. The 2019 statistics show that the Indians and the Bangladeshis made up 32.2% of the total foreign workforce in Brunei. Collectively, they are the largest group of migrant workers in the countries. COVID-19 in Brunei. Brunei experienced two waves of the pandemic. The first wave was from March to May 2020 with 230 reported cases. After more than 400 days without community infections, 8 new cases were reported on the 7th of August 2021, and this signified the start of the second wave of the pandemic. Until 30th of November 2021, Brunei recorded more than 15,000 COVID-19 cases with 97 deaths. And like in any other countries, Brunei implemented standard restrictions and preventive measures in order to control the spread of the coronavirus. Conceptual reflections. I employed the concepts of diaspora for the conceptual considerations of this study. The term diaspora has become increasingly varied and multidimensional. Burns McGowan emphasizes the importance of diaspora as a space of connections in two dimensions. And one of the dimensions has to be the homeland of the diaspora. So when we have a conceptualization, the definitions of diaspora, it would demonstrate an active connections with a homeland. Related to this perspective, Webner demonstrates that attachment to homeland forms a robust basis for expressions of belonging and ties of co-responsibility across the boundaries of empires, political communities, or nation. So bringing these conceptual reflections of diaspora closer to this study, so the life experiences of the participant will be framed within this specific concept. And this study will explore the expressions of responsibility, the expressions of belonging the participants demonstrate towards their homeland through the utilizations of social media, which became much more pronounced during the pandemic. Data and methods. The study adopts qualitative interviews with 23 South Asian migrant workers, where all of them were recruited via purposive and snowball samplings. All of them can communicate adequately in Bahasa Brunei, and this is very important, and they consented to the use of pseudonym in order to protect the interview data. Thematic data analysis was adopted, and the most prominent themes identified by the study are social media's role as trusted news sources and as a means of fulfilling the responsibility of the participants to their family in their home country. So now we go straight to the findings and discussions. So the first prominent themes is trusted news sources. The initial finding reported the participants' fear of job loss due to the pandemic. But analyzing further the interview data, the fear was actually driven by the observations of the impacts of the pandemic in their home countries. And these observations was retrieved through social media. So this is an interview excerpt by Shah. Shah shared that they watch YouTube, they check their Facebook all the time in order to get the latest news from their home country. And it was worrying for them to learn that there are more people that lost their jobs due to lockdown. And a lot of businesses in India were out. And as the pandemic restrictions in Brunei were eased in the first quarter of 2021, the participants expressed a greater concern for their family, because at the same time, at that time, that the conditions in South Asia worsened. With the third wave, the pandemic had hit India and Bangladesh in March and April 2021, respectively. So this is an interview excerpt from Samir, who was extremely worried for his family's safety, because there was an increasing theft cases in his district, because people were losing job, and that's the reasons why for this increasing theft cases. So due to their concern, they increasingly relied on reports from social media. The virtual immediacy in information disseminations of these online platforms allow the participants to retrieve updates, to retrieve latest news just in a few clicks on their mobile phones. And it's much faster than what their family members would convey to them. So that actually the reasons why they increasingly relied on reports from social media. However, there were participants that also shared that they experience what we call as information overload or information saturation, and this led to excessive concern and restlessness. Narun here shared that he was constantly worried for his parents, his aging parents, even though his home village in Pabna, Bangladesh, recorded one of the lowest COVID-19 cases in the country, and he was frightened by the dramatic increase in fatalities, in death, during the third wave, and which caused them sleepless nights, because he was constantly worrying for his parents. And it was also uncommon for the participants to highlight that they actually enjoyed this the safe living conditions in Brunei. So even when Brunei was hit by the second wave of the pandemic in August 2021, they still believed that Brunei was better off than their home country. But within that same conversation, they also reported this feeling of guilt because they could not provide direct protections, physical protections for their families. And this consequently contributed to these feelings of disempowerment. And this excerpt from Ali, who wished that he could bring his family to Brunei. So you can see here that these expressions of disempowerment, these expressions of obligations or responsibility was repeatedly surfaced in the interview data. And that actually led us to the second prominent themes that we retrieved from the interview data. These notions of responsibility where they are at home while being away from home. So, well, even though they are away from home, they're actually not really away from home. So one of the most common expressions of responsibility by the participants is that through their constant connection, constant interactions with their family members. They were all very appreciative of digital technology and the telecommunication service in Brunei that actually allowed them to keep in touch with their family. They actually did not even mind. They shared that they did not mind spending like $10, 10 Brunei dollars every month for phone bills or internet service. And some even said that they would send extra money to their families at home to purchase mobile phones that can support video calls so they can see their families virtually. So analyzing the migrants' narratives, this study found that regular interactions with families, which was made mainly through the WhatsApp platform or the social media, actually substitutes this direct physical protection. Adil here shared that he would check his mobile phone every hour because he would get worried if his wife did not send him WhatsApp messages for updates, okay, for more than 2 hours. Those with aging parents also express a greater need to call and check on them regularly. And this is a clear manifestation of a stronger sense of family obligations, family responsibility. Shah shared here that the first thing he would do after work is to check online news on YouTube and convey the news to his parents because they were not able to keep themselves updated. So you can see here these interview excerpts demonstrate that the participants technologically enhance engagement with their family, allowed them to be at home, even though they are being away from home, and allowed them to fulfill their paternal obligations and responsibility to provide protections to their family. So in other words, this digital engagement effectively dilutes their physical absence from home, and that actually can help to buffer some of the impacts of the pandemic on their families. So my final thoughts here, that the notion that the migrants are at home while being away from home proves to be valid and true. The challenging pandemic situations, which aided by the utilizations of social media, led to a strong notions of responsibility, and this generated distinct sense of belonging among the South Asian migrant workers in Brunei. But this is somewhat expected, because when we talk about diaspora, so no matter how long they have been away from their home, they would always maintain significant connections with their country of origins. So with that note, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.